Acknowledgements. Firstly, I would like to say thank you. Thank you to you, the reader. Thank you for wanting to grow and improve. We need more people like you on this planet. Secondly, I would like to say thank you to the people who gave me the courage to write this book. My co-author, Laura Nexutu, and my virtual mentors, Patrick Bet David and Ryan Stuman. Dedications. I am dedicating this book to the thousands of sales champions I have had the pleasure of calling my students. If you were one of my students in the United States, or Cyprus, or Romania, or Israel, or in the Ukraine, I want to thank you for helping me grow. How to use this book. This book is broken up into 2 parts. The first half of this book will help you to prepare you for your first telephone sales call. Reading the second half of this book will help you during your first few months as a sales development representative. If you wanted to, you could describe the first half of this book as the inner game, and the second half of this book as the outer game. You will always be able to refer to this book, and please do not hesitate to reach out directly to us at salesdevelopmentisrael@gmail.com in order to clarify any questions you have. You are a champion and we want to help you succeed. This book will help you to prepare before you start a job as a sales development representative. In addition, this book will help you during the first few months of your new exciting career in sales. This book does not contain any complex sales strategies because they are always irrelevant for the beginner, and most of the time for experienced salespeople. The ideas involved in sales are easy to complicate, and that is the opposite point of this book. In order to get the most out of this book, I recommend taking notes on any ideas you find valuable. In addition, I want you to take notes about thoughts that you have of your own about the topics inside this book. Most importantly, and lastly, to get the most out of this book, adhere to the specific suggestions and strategies, precisely as they are given. Introduction. The biggest question that I asked myself before creating this book was why write it? The question of whether I had the experience and the knowledge to share and benefit people was without question. I have been in sales, as a salesperson, for over 30 years. At the age of 37, I choose to write this book, but I have been in the field of sales since the age of 5 years old. I started my sales career, taking out the trash for different neighbors in the apartment complex where I grew up. Now, being a professional sales trainer, traveling around the world, and teaching sales development to beginners, intermediate, and upper-level sales managers and salespeople. I feel that my experience and knowledge are without question. This book will not contain stories about me, or the trials and tribulations I have experienced as a salesperson, or as a sales trainer. This book does not have any stories in it. Rather, this book contains specific and precise methods derived from my own experiences, combined with what I have learned from thousands of books that I know will help you. I am attempting to write this book with the intentions of condensing and expressing my thoughts, and the successful sales systems I have created over the years. In this way, the writing of this book is much like the role of the sales development representative. The purpose of this book will be to introduce you to the role of an SDR, and to share with you the specific methods that I used in order to succeed. I too was a sales development representative, and in many ways, I still am. I still need to promote and present my product to decision makers. In this case, you. So decide what you will, and will not use. Like you, I chose to seek knowledge of those before me in order to accelerate my learning curve. So congratulations to you. Already you are on a path of success. However, I will speak with you as if you are taking your first few steps. Through this book, I intend to show you the entire route you need to take. The pathway you only need to follow, in order to become an exceptional sales development representative. So let us begin. Chapter 1. Why do people do things? This chapter is going to help you understand the mind state of the consumer, in order to prepare you to sell better and be a better overall influencer. This is a very important topic for someone who deals with, and is himself or herself a consumer. Therefore, this chapter is going to be perfect for you. I am by no means a consumer psychologist. However, I know that every now and then we all need to ask ourselves the question, why do people do things? This concept of going towards positive things and being repelled by negative things goes back to our adolescence. When we first learned not to touch fire, and what the embrace of our mother's love felt like. Mother told us not to touch the fire, but we still did, and we still burned our hand, and we had to touch the fire in order to feel the pain, or the bad. From this bad, we experienced the longing to be near our mother's heartbeat, and it was good. As infants, we went from the pain to the pleasure, we went from the bad to the good. It is in the psyche of every human being. This happens not only because of our lower level reptilian brain, but also through repetition. In addition, this happens because of positive, negative reinforcements into our belief systems. These are belief systems, which live inside of our subconscious minds. Writing this book for salespeople, I am fully aware that most of us are not psychologists. Therefore, sales development representative, the explanation is quite simple. In life, forbidden things bring the adrenaline of trying. This is how we discover that we have no limits, no borders. When talking about prejudices and self-reliance, you will naturally tend to try as many times as needed to succeed. The mother's heartbeat, again, is the perfect example to feel comfortable and safe. Perhaps it relates to the adults who make excuses and who are afraid to take risks. They prefer the comfort of working the same job, at the same level, without the attraction to defeat the reptilian brain. This is why many people do things. You need to understand from the conversation with customers and prospects, which kind of person they are. Then, you need to apply the perfect method to persuade them. In conclusion, knowing why people do things that they do, and how to push the correct buttons, will accelerate your sales success. Key takeaway number 1, implement a little pressure on your prospect to push him towards your good product/services. In addition, apply a little guilt to help push your prospect away from the bad possible scenarios you create in their mind, if they do not use your product/services. Chapter 2. Find something you love and sell it. Unfortunately, many people do not make it in the field of sales. As a SDR, I want you to know what I believe is the main reason that you could fail. The biggest reason that you may not succeed in sales is that you are not in love with your product. Meaning, the SDR must need to find a product that they love, and a product that they can believe in. It is important when choosing a product to sell, to have the utmost belief in the product itself. How do you find a product that you can believe in? Well, some people might say that it is not important to believe in the product as long as the job they have pays great. I strongly disagree. For example, when starting a training course, I sometimes ask the students how many of them use the product/service. Then I ask how many of them would use the product/service. If they cannot say yes to either question, it is not a good sign. In fact, it is a bad sign. You must have good reasons to use your product/services. In addition, the challenging part is to be smart when sharing the benefits of using your products/services. To succeed, you must believe that there is no such thing as unnecessary. Think about denim jeans. Who would know that 90% of people would wear jeans? No one. This is because jeans were made to be used in mines. By miners. No one needed jeans, but people wear them in every corner of the world today. Such was the story of Levi's denim jeans. If you do not have a specific passion in mind, I would highly recommend you have a conversation with the man/woman in the mirror. Wanting to find an occupation where you can get excited and be enthusiastic about it is a part of human nature. You deserve to have a job you love, don't you? If you are considering becoming SDR or BDR, ask yourself, what are some of the things that I love to do? Then ask yourself, what products are associated to this thing? Take it from me. Ask yourself these 2 questions. I am a person who has sold many products, and I have been inside many B2B and B2C industries. Without belief and love for the product I was supposed to market and sell, I was not able to perform at the highest levels of my potential. When sharing your product story with your prospects, you must organize and share the benefits of your products/services. Create a great story about the product you are selling. Do this in a creative way, and sell that story with your whole heart. Now go find something you love and a product you believe in. Key takeaway number 2, to succeed as a SDR, you should find a job selling the right thing. For your soul. Chapter 3. Why women are better at sales than men. Before reading, please understand that in this chapter, I am speaking directly toward women. And I understand you might get offended. Here are the 3 reasons for this belief. 1. You understand the rules and ways of sales, influence, and persuasion already. In society, men are constantly approaching women. This is true in most cases. Moreover, men typically use any form of influence that they can in order to achieve success. This is life. Accept it or not. Manipulation, by the male gender upon the female gender in order to achieve copulation, exists. The fact that men are constantly approaching women in a manipulative, persuasive, or sales-like fashion, gives women much more exposure to salesmen literally. That said, women have more real-life exposure to sales situations, sales environments, and sales influence techniques. This especially puts very beautiful women at an advantage in sales, as they are prospected more often. 2. In face-to-face sales situations, you can use sexuality as a tool. The intelligent saleswoman should place herself in a situation in which she is at advantage. Why wouldn't she? Make sure to appear properly groomed in order to take advantage of the gifts that nature has given to you, in every form. If it is possible to place yourself in a face-to-face sales situation, and you possess control and access to your sexuality, then there is no reason not to use your body in order to influence prospects. 3. Women are just plain smarter than men are. As a man, and speaking on behalf of all men across the planet Earth, I would like to announce that we know that you are smarter than we are. Where most men can only consider and ponder one topic at a time, the brain of a woman is able to contemplate various topics simultaneously. The mind of a man is like a one-way street and the mind of a woman is like a 4-lane highway as far as simultaneous thoughts are concerned. The ability to think more things simultaneously puts women at an advantage over men. The professional saleswoman possesses a better ability to control a situation, and a better ability to comprehend, and shape the path before her. Lastly, women have more mental stamina, fortitude, and dexterity than any man could ever have. A word from the co-author. As a female sales development representative, I make sure to use all my senses during my sales process. The most important thing is to be better prepared than my client expects me to be. I have found in most of my work-related experiences that men assume that because I am a woman, I cannot be an equal performer. In addition, many of the men I have worked with assume that I cannot be passionate about technology, or that I could never be as prepared as they are. I always take them by surprise when I start talking in the larger spectrum of business. Specifically, when I explain ideas and plans relating to business scaling. For example, networking concepts, product/service specs, or computer hardware. This is the major benefit of being a saleswoman, the ability to use the surprise element. Of course, I use charm and eloquence, education, and professionalism at the highest levels as well. I can assure you that being a true professional is the sexiest thing any female saleswoman can do. Key takeaway number 3, if you are a female SDR, use all of the tools that the Creator gave to you. Chapter 4. Salespeople, according to Eastern philosophy. This chapter is about the 4 personality types, described through the eyes of Eastern philosophy, into a sales mentality. This chapter is for all sales development representatives to use. This chapter will help you to gain self-understanding. Self-understanding can never be a bad thing. In an effort to steer you towards success, I want you to know about the 4 types of salespeople. Try to understand where you fit, and more importantly, the areas in which you can self-consciously grow. That said, let us begin to analyze the 4 types of sales development representatives: the artist, the warrior, the merchant, and the farmer. The artist. The artist personality type is great at creating chemistry and rapport with other human beings. She is probably getting decent sales results simply because the old saying is true: the client buys you, not the product. For many artist-type sales development representatives, this is true. However, the ability to negotiate and close appointments enter sales is the artist's weakness. This makes the artist personality type great for a company retention program or a customer success position. Be cautious of inconsistent results, as the artist can be prone to emotional swings, which will tie into their sales results. Please note, the best way to address any topic of improvement with the artist is through a large amount of consistent, follow-up conversions. The warrior. The warrior type personality is a great sales development representative, but typically makes a better account executive. This is because the warrior is skilled in negotiation, and foremost, in the skill of closing the sale. The classic rebuttals and resistances of "we need to think about it" and "don't have the budget" are unacceptable. The warrior type salesperson will naturally lean towards argumentation as a solution to issues. The sheer determination of the warrior is his/her greatest strength, as the passion that they bring into their sales process will be undeniable. The downside of being the warrior type is that they need work with developing chemistry and rapport with prospects, and may be lacking a high-quality follow-up process. In the courteous society that we live in, we are normally dealing with very polite people, for the most part, that play different roles in companies. Therefore, the warrior type SDR will need to tone down the levels of his/her aggression. The merchant. Of all the personality types that can succeed in the role of a sales development representative, the merchant will have the greatest natural advantage. The merchant is a natural debater, deal maker, and negotiator. They excel in the skill of persuading others by the use of numbers, while understanding the financial side of the entire sales process. The personality type of the merchant is one who tends to focus on numbers. They can also be excellent at entrepreneurship and running transaction-based businesses. If you are the merchant type personality, understand that as a sales development representative, the rewards will be enormous for you. The farmer. I believe that the farmer personality type is the one that will typically struggle the most in the field of sales. The farmer personality type is the one that is prone introversion. They may appear shy, and may enjoy working with his/her hands. Fret not, and fear not if you find yourself to be the farmer type personality. You just need to practice, and to undergo a bit more training. Remember to find a product you love, and one you will be able to speak about with passion. Key takeaway number 4, know your personality type. Then challenge yourself, and grow. Chapter 5. Why SDRs never need to lie. When I was writing this book, and thought about defining what a real sales development representative should be, I began to start to ponder my own self-image. A sales development representative is primarily a salesperson. What a pity, most cultures look down on salespeople. How does the public perceive us as salespeople? In 2018, the role of the typical 1,950 salesperson has expanded and now exists in multiple roles. These positions have developed out of the need for more efficient sales processes within global startup companies. The old role of a salesperson has been broken down into the name of sales development representative, or business development representative, or account executive. A whole bunch of acronyms to describe specific aspects of the sales role, during different stages of the sales cycle. In my opinion, these terms all equal the same exact thing: sales. It is clear that the word salesman itself is borderline profanity in most countries. Salespeople are smarmy, sleazy, manipulative, and dishonest, when shown across all forms of media. Moreover, some salespeople are exactly those things. For the beginner sales development representative, I want you to know that you should never lie, and you never need to lie at any point in your sales process. First, let us identify the biggest reason you might lie. It is because you do not have a large enough vocabulary. How large is your vocabulary? How many words do you know, and how many words are there in the English language? Nobody I know has the ability to memorize the whole dictionary, but it is going to be important to have a large vocabulary. Preferably, a large amount of adjectives. Begin to study language in the thesaurus rather than dictionary, in order to expand your current vocabulary. Having a large vocabulary will give you more control to use your language better, and compose better sentence structure. As a sales development representative, having a large vocabulary puts you in an advantage, as you will be able to easily incorporate persuasive language patterns into your sales process. In addition, I want you to be creative regardless of the service/product you sell. To grow as a SDR, focus your energy on being creative. If the sales development representative has a large vocabulary, and a great ability to be creative, these strengths are not overlooked. Lastly, and old as time, yet true as ever, use a script. You will be more prone to fabricate the truth, and lie because you do not know what you are going to say ahead of time. It is much easier to make up a creative bullshit stories, rather than to tell the truth when you are freestyling. For example, the parent that did not know what to say their child and told them about the concept of childbirth, using a silly story about a stork, the old fairy tale, about a bird flying from the sky to deliver a special package. Rather, use a script created by the company you work for and later refine it for yourself. Use a script that creatively composes sentence structures. A script that clearly and honestly explains your product/service and has the best answers to the questions that come at you. Premeditate your well-worded honesty, rather than making up some fake story. One of the most important things as a sales development representative is that you have to be well prepared to make your customer think. Prospects are not stupid. They are used to hearing lies from salespeople, but they are not used to being asked questions by salespeople. When you are talking during a conversation, you are performing a monologue. Fact: the human can only pay 100% attention for about 30 seconds, while they are listening on the phone. Fact: successful SDRs specialize in talking with prospects. Collaborate with your prospects, do not throw things at them, pass them the ball and make them part of your sales process. Use some of the examples below to get your prospects talking more. Example: what would you do if? That would be like you having, right? Could you see your company using my product? How much time/money would you save having? Why wouldn't, would you? It is essential that your prospect understands the product benefits for their company. The prospect needs to trust themselves, that they are making the best decision for her or his business. Trust your ability to communicate honestly, and your sales will be secure and long-lasting. Key takeaway number 5, great sales development representatives do not lie to prospects. Chapter 6. The difference B2B and B2C sales. In this chapter, I want to make sure that there is an understanding between two specific types of sales, B2B and B2C. To start with, B2B stands for business to business, and B2C stands for business to consumer. In order to help you, I will explain what I have determined is the main difference between the B2B and B2C sales processes. Typically, in a B2C SDR sales situation, you are dealing directly with the buyer. You are dealing with the person who will be using your products/services. During the early part of the sale, you would ask personal questions in order to discover the personal goals and the personal needs in the personal life of your potential buyer. In contrast, in a B2B SDR sales situation, much less focus is on the client's personal needs and personal goals within their own lives, as these are not the problem/pain points that the SDR needs to discover. As a B2B SDR, the first person you speak with will not be the buyer/decision maker. Your job is to reach a decision maker. Then, after you speak with the right person and set up an appointment, you would hand off the prospect to another department. The other departments handle the demonstration and closing of sales. Therefore, you are simply the opener. The main difference between a B2B sales process and a B2C sales process is the level of depth of questioning. Specifically, the depth and types of questions asked during the qualifying, needs, chemistry, rapport section, or whatever you would like to call the second part of a sales process. The product does not matter in this case. Whether you are talking about software sales, enterprise resource planning, ERP, or human resources, HR, supply chain management, SCM, marketing, data management, cybersecurity, customer service, CS, or customer relationship management, CRM. The main difference between B2B and B2C is the second stage of the sales process. Asking questions to find the needs and understand the pain points of the prospect. Asking questions to help benefit the current processes of the potential client during the brief presentation. Asking questions to find the purchasing processes, decision makers, and buying periods. Asking questions to find pain points. Then asking questions to qualify, questions to find out budgets. Questions to find out what to include in the sales presentation. The presentation of your products/services should always be 100% customized and 100% relevant to the prospect. We will discuss the art of SDR presentations later in the book. I want the B2C sales development representative, or the B2B sales development representative, to transition between many sales roles. Each has its own positives and negatives. This is my recommendation for you. Perhaps this chapter will open your mind. Remember that great philosopher, Bruce Lee, said, "We all must be as if water." I will make the adage of, especially if you are a sales development representative. I conclude that the main difference between the role of a SDR in B2C or B2B sales are the types of questions, the depth and necessity for these questions, and the specific aspects of them. Prepare to try both types of sales in order to find out which fits you. Good luck! Key takeaway number 6, know what is out there, and try anything once. Chapter 7. 3 Tips for the Beginner Sales Development Representative. I am sorry, but I am going to be general in this chapter of the book. This chapter of the book is for the beginners. It will give you the first 3 steps to being a successful SDR. You must do what I ask. Here are 3 specific requests that I have for you. They are the 3 steps you need to take in order to excel, and be the true champion that you are. 1. Get obsessed. You, the SDR, will receive a lower base pay. But you will get a bonus/commission on each appointment/sale you make. In your job, will be no ceiling to how much money you can actually make. You need to look at this scenario the right way. The fact that there is no salary cap means that you will be responsible for your own salary. This is the best way to look at your pay structure, and it is true. That said, for financial reasons alone, get obsessed about being a great sales development representative. You are at the beginning of your life, or your new career, and this is the best way to find out how much you can push yourself. Know that to push the limits of your previous accomplishments is the foundation of your improvement as a SDR. Use your tones, your voice and your hands, and always stand up. Close your eyes and listen to your client, and listen well, to hear the words he is saying. It is essential to be obsessed with listening. Write down the answers your client gives you during the conversations. Create possible future solutions, and practice small scenarios to bring your client on the track you want them to be. Be obsessed to succeed, and be obsessed to find ways to lead conversations. 2. Duplicate, do not innovate. When you are first starting out as a sales development representative at any company, you need to find and shadow the person making the most sales. You will be part of a new team, and this is great news. During your first week, observe, identify, and approach the best member of the team. Offer to take them out to lunch, and then flatter them while at lunch. At lunch, tell them how much you admire their skills on the phone, and show interest in them, as a person. At the end of the lunch, ask them to shadow them in the office so that you can be the best like them. They will say yes. Tonality tip. During a prospecting conversation, your voice should sound full of energy. As if it is the first call of the day, even if you are dead tired. You need to sound like a highly positive person with positive energy. Even if you are on the last leg of a day filled with rejection and disappointment. Know that the first 10 seconds of your tonality will lead the whole conversation. If you sound bored or tired, your client immediately will feel that, and he will respond likewise. 3. Use a script. I know it sounds like a square thing to do. I know it will be embarrassing to practice. And, I do not care. You need to use a script made by either you, or your company. As a sales development representative, you must use scripts. The first 100 to 500 to 1000 times you try execute a new sales script, you will sound horrific. Nevertheless, right before you quit, you are going to nail it, sound great, and crush the words in the paper before you. While being obsessed with making money and succeeding, while shadowing your new mentor, write as many notes as you can. From those notes, you should then form a script. You can do the script writing in your free time. I am talking about creating multiple scripts, almost a script for everything you might say. Every possible objection you encounter, answers for questions, introductions, presentations, and every part of your sales process. You need to be 100% scripted, all the time, period. Do not think that the best SDRs on your team were awesome from the start. They were worse than you are. Now you admire them. You see them relaxed, leading the conversation as if they were talking to a friend. They all were beginners once. Using a script is the most common and easiest way to achieve SDR success. Repeat the phrases in your scripts aloud, hundreds of times until they sound good. If your managers see you using scripts, they will think that you are detail-oriented. In addition, they will see you are a good planner and wide thinker. Do not be ashamed to use scripts, and do not hesitate to duplicate your way to success. Key takeaway number 7, anyone can be a champion because the formula is simple. Chapter 8. Start your day right. Maybe you are a salesperson reading this, and maybe you are not. For this chapter of the book, it does not matter. Anyone, with any profession in the world, can read this chapter and benefit from it. However, and most importantly, I want to make sure that you, the SDR, are starting your day off right. First, never hit the snooze button. When you hit the snooze button, you are starting the race on the wrong foot. There is nothing worse than to delay your first decision of the day. It is as if you are trying to procrastinate the beginning of the day, and the start of the activity. To arise in the morning should be a decision made with conviction. The decision to commence the day before you start your day, and to dive into it like a cold pool of water. If you hit the snooze button in the morning once, then you probably hit the snooze button in the morning more than once. Shame on you. A TED speaker I saw said it best, your overall life quality will stem from the ability to wake up enthusiastically and optimistically each morning. Second, set 2 important goals for the day. Sometimes you can go through the day without being truly productive, and without completing any important tasks. Instead of setting a long list of goals that you will not be able to complete by the end of the day, which is what most of us do, why not write down fewer, smaller goals? Do this. Set 2 goals you can actually complete by the time you rest back down to sleep. Set the goals to work as smaller stepping stones on the path towards your long-term life goals. The results will trickle into your job. Just watch. You will become more efficient and structured as a sales development representative from this habit alone. I promise. Third, do 10 minutes of attitude of gratitude. Every morning on the way to work, play a series of messages in your head. Yes, that is right. Talk to yourself inside of your head. The messages you tell yourself will begin to seed the belief systems you have. In the morning as you begin your day, use affirmations. Your morning affirmations should start with I am so grateful that, or I am so grateful for. Your feet, your hands, your fingers, your heart, your mother, your father, your sister, the sun, your lungs, the ability to hate and to love, or even the wind. Say these kinds of simple positive statements internally, and mean it. Have you ever noticed that you tend to admire people who are fresh and positive, and smiling from the morning until the night? The secret is gratitude. Wake up, every morning, no matter how tired you are, and be grateful that you can breathe. Be positive. It is only you who decides the flow of your day. Implement a series of affirmations and reaffirmations, in order to improve your outlook and your mood. Be grateful for everything, and the possibility to experience everything that this life has to offer. Key takeaway number 8, you control how you feel. Act like it. Chapter 9. How to listen properly. As a professional sales trainer and coach, I think about being inside call centers and hearing the salespeople inside speaking and speaking, and speaking and speaking. This is a problem. The good sales development representative will listen very closely to what the prospect is saying. The excellent SDR will focus on how prospects are saying things. The 86% of how we say things is so much more important than the 14% of what we say. A wise man from the world of sales once said, "A good salesman is a good talker, but a great salesman is a good listener." However, and simultaneously, when it comes to listening correctly during a telephone sales process, too many sales development representatives listen too closely during their telephone calls. Let me explain. When we listen to other people, we absorb their energy and we go on their journey. This is never good for a telephone salesperson. We want the client to go with us on our journey, arriving where we want them to arrive. No, I am not saying that we do not listen at all, but when listening, we must do it correctly. The first thing that you are listening for is ammunition. Some people call it finding the needs and some people call it finding the prospect's pain points. The fact is, during a telephone call as a SDR you are collecting information from potential. You will use the information you have discovered against the prospect, and then offer a solution. Naturally, you must have a pen and paper in order to take notes of all the bits of ammunition you are collecting and will be using your ammunition, so listening for ammunition is crucial. The second thing that you are listening for is where you are going. In which way shall you direct the call as a sales development representative? The idea should be to go slightly off the tracks in order for the call not to feel like a sales call. However, sometimes the potential client will take you way off track, and this is never a good thing. Your prospect may begin to talk about topics that have nothing to do with you or your product. If the call gets too far off track, you must be aware of it and act accordingly. Therefore, you must listen to see where the sales process is going at all times. The third thing we are listening for is the perfect moment to close. You may be a great sales development representative, but if the client does not hear from you the magic words, and your offer, you are not doing your job. Never have I heard a prospect say, "Yes, I am ready to buy now," or "I would like to set an appointment to hear more." Matter of fact, if the potential client says, "So what are the next steps?" you did not perform your duty as a sales development representative. What you are listening for is the moment of confirmation. If you do your job correctly, the prospect will come over a wall. A mental wall towards you. You may hear a confirmation of understanding and a slight sigh. You might hear the confirmation of understanding and agreement in an perhaps just a slight pause of acknowledgement. You must be listening for the right things at the right times, in order to know when to ask your closing questions. Educate yourself through listening. Listen closely, and once you receive your confirmation, close immediately. Key takeaway number 9, anyone can be a champion. Chapter 10. How to communicate properly. Inside the first steps of your sales conversation, the most important thing you can do is ask good questions. Communication itself is an art. Communication itself is a topic that has been one of discussion for ages. Pun intended. Nevertheless, I want to give you my own unique look at the art of communicating properly. Let us look at how questioning equals true communication. Example. Me, who are you? You, answer me, no, but really who are you? You, different answer me, no, but really, who are you? You, different answer. Imagine your first answers to this question. What answers would you give when it was asked a second time? Then the third. How deeply would you really have to go into yourself in order to answer these questions? Why is asking questions important? It is important because in order to influence/sell anything or any company, you must know about them, their company, and their product. Whether in a sales situation or any situation, the 80-20 rule applies. You should speak in every sales conversation knowing that percentages are important, but they are not everything. The questions you ask are. Here is a list of questions that you can print out and use, in order to empower yourself through questioning. 1. What don't you like about? 2. How important do you think it is to? 3. If I could provide you the best product, what would it look like? 4. How can I help you yourself from your competitors? 5. And how long would you want this service to work? 6. What are 2 of the key things you look at before deciding on paying your hard-earned money for something? 7. So, what does the buying process look like there? Lastly, I wanted to share 3 ways to keep someone talking in order to gather more information. Sales development representatives are information gatherers, problem finders, and most importantly problem solvers. After initially asking a great question, you may not receive what you consider ammunition. Use the expanders below to keep your prospect talking. 1. Why would you say that? 2. That's interesting, what do you mean? 3. Can you please tell me more about that? Key takeaway number 10, the less you talk, the more you win. Chapter 11. The SDR introduction, the first 5 seconds. The sales development representative and the concept of introductions go hand in hand. However, for us to talk about how to introduce yourself is going to be useless, and there is no point even trying to start. Unless you have energy. If you are already charged up, and can already see the positive outcome of the call you are about to make in your mind, then you are ready to dial. The first 5 seconds of your call are going to set the tone for the whole relationship with your prospect. As a sales development representative, you should make sure that you use friendly back-rubbing tones. Do not sound/seem overly enthusiastic. If you are overexcited sounding, the prospect will sense your phoniness and assume that you are probably a typical, shitty SDR. This means death. Here is how you introduce yourself. 1. Ask for the prospect, using only their first name. 2. Make sure you quicken the way you speak, your speaking pace, in order to come across as a sharp professional. 3. Wait for the prospect to connect with the name of your company. 4. State your reason for calling. Example. Hi, the prospect's first name? Wait for reply, my name is your name. After you say where you are calling from. Pause. Then, after any reply, restart and say with smile, hi, the prospect's first name, how's life treating you today? If you are surprised about this question, I will explain it to you. You will find out that humans actually have answers prepared for questions they hear all the time. If you switch up the language patterns you use, you will get a much better reaction from prospects. Try it. Case study by the co-author. I was managing a call center of 15 SDR agents, given a target to sell to 4,000 prospects in Singapore. After the first day, at 300 calls per sales representative, I noticed that all of the reps were receiving the same answer from our target list, wrong number. I analyzed the database and it was okay. What was it? I decided that we should make a slight adjustment in the first sentence only. I began to have the SDR team introduce themselves and the company, using an atypical pattern of words. Instead of using, how are you? We began to use how are you feeling today? Needless to say that the team began to get a completely different response from prospects. In a good way. Key takeaway number 11, use your language, the way that the artist uses a paintbrush. Chapter 12. Confidence, body posture, and sales. The way that one of my sales courses will go, is we will spend some time learning in a classroom, and then we will take the learning out onto the actual sales floor. When we get on the sales floor, and then onto the phones, and if you are the new person on a SDR or BDR team, many times that can shake your confidence. Reading this book and investing into your learning, you will have the knowledge and the skills to succeed. However, as a beginner to sales, many times you will have shyness inside of you. As you are trying to execute your first 50, 100, or 400 calls. You need to understand and remember that confidence is 90% of the SDR success equation. You never know how long it is going to take to build your confidence, but I want to help you straighten the growth curve. Let us discuss the correlation between the telephone, confidence, body posture, and sales success. From the inside, you feel like you are trying your best to do your job. But from the outside, I can see what is really going on. You are sitting down, you are hunching over, and you are trying to listen very closely to your telephone sales call. Bad move. You sound bad because you are hunching over, and I have seen that hurt many salespeople. The way that a telephone salesperson should handle every minute of their phone call is standing on their feet, with their chest out. The old saying is true, motion creates emotion. I personally believe that the salesperson that do not stand on the phone while trying to sound convincing to someone who cannot see or hear him or her is a sales amateur. Your confidence connects directly to your body posture, every day. Get your confidence flowing, and make your money. Never sit. Never. If you do, your voice and the energy you transmit through your voice will suffer tremendously. These are two huge factors in your SDR success. Confidence is in your posture, with your chin up, with your chest out, with your muscles tight. You can choose to sell yourself, your confident image, your looks, and your sharp mind. Through a telephone device, sell, I dare you. Key takeaway number 12, use your body when you speak with your prospects. Chapter 13. The double P's equals premeditated passion. Have you ever been on a sales call when your prospect tells you something that you do not want to hear? You have been rejected. It happens, and it will happen again, and it is okay. Nevertheless, giving up is not an option. We have bills to pay, quotas to make, and families to support. Premeditation. If you have worked in telephone sales, face-to-face sales, or are an experienced SDR, then you should not be surprised by the rejection. Premeditation is all about perception, and you should take a different view on the rejection that you receive as a SDR. You should look at rejection as a good thing. Even if a prospect rejects your proposal, you may be able to get real feedback or a recommendation from them. This rejection can be a huge opportunity for you to create a promoter for your product/service. You may be able to ask for referrals to associates, or perhaps she/he may remember you when they are ready to consider using your products. Write a list of the best 2 rebuttals to the 5 objections/rejections you hear the most, word for word. Then become a master at delivering those rebuttals. A true master, with beautiful tones and properly timed pauses. All of this you can plan for and incorporate into your scripts. You must be using scripts in order to premeditate your plans for dealing with rejection. Passion. The more passionate you are about your product, about your role as a SDR, and about life in general, the easier it will be to overcome rejection. Without passion, do not attempt to compete in life. If you cannot get passionate as a SDR, then perhaps you are selling the wrong product. You can try to fake it, but there is no reason to. Fall in love with something you believe really helps other people, and know as much information about your product as possible. These 2 combined are a recipe for success. You will begin to have passion when you speak throughout your sales process with a knowing inside that you are helping companies/people. Key takeaway number 13, having premeditated passion will lead you to success. Chapter 14. 5 tips to control your SDR sales process. When thinking about controlling someone else, it seems aggressive. However, in every conversation that you have ever had, someone has controlled its direction. The way that it happened was the same way that all conversations go, including your telephone sales calls. Questions pop up. The idea is to engage in all conversations with your sales prospects with premeditated intentions. You should know the exact intentions you have before you even pick up the phone. Before each time you pick up the phone, you already know what your goal is. Controlling your SDR sales process is critical, and having the ability to control your sales conversations will lead to your overall success. It is your sales process, right? Once you get the prospect on the phone and get past the introductions, it is time for building a relationship. The facts are the facts, and no one wants to talk to someone they do not know about things that they do not care about. Your job is to build great, interesting rapport. So there you are at work, trying to build a relationship with someone you cannot see and do not know. You are trying to get in touch with the right person, and when you find them, you have questions and statements for them. You are constantly discovering who people are and what they do. You are learning about people and simultaneously finding out about their company. The best thing you can do is plan ahead, in every way. Meaning that you should have a series of questions to ask, or statements to make, if you find yourself out in no man's land. When I find myself off track during my own sales conversations, I like to ask a great question to realign. Then, I will ask another great question to continue the correct path. This is exactly what I want you to do to maintain conversation control. What about some of these ideas to bring the call from off topic back on topic? 1. So I am glad to get to know you, prospect's name. I would like to see if you might be a good fit for your company name, family. If that is okay with you? 2. I know, and I think it is time for company to start taking action, and this is exactly why I called you today, prospect's name. 3. Okay, so just a few more questions before we finish. 4. So, this is why you signed up for the demo then. Is that right? 5. You asked me about. 6. We are at the point in sales process, is that right? 7. Okay. Until now we agreed on. Is that clear so far? Or in a last case scenario? 8. So, client's name, I feel like we got a little bit off track here. Is it okay if I ask you just a few more questions? Write down the ones you like from those above, and post them up in your workstation. Just in case. If you find yourself blabbering about nothing, for no reasons, that you can ascertain during the real moment. You are off track. Create your own list of questions that bring you back on track, or use mine. Just do not get lost in conversations and blow opportunities. I say this because I care, and nothing is worse than a ruined opportunity on the job. It is a huge waste of your time and your company's assets. Key takeaway number 14, be fully prepared for every opportunity that comes your way. You are in control. Chapter 15. 3 reasons to collaborate with other SDRs. The sales floor can be a crazy place. I think that all sales floors should be a bit hectic. And the last thing that you should do is to be the outsider, or the outcast, on your sales team. This chapter is about the reason why you should collaborate with the other people on your sales development team. 1. You will make more money. To share your thoughts about some of the struggles you're having is a great idea. Do not be a complainer and whine to other people about your issues. Instead, be a collaborator and ask for advice. Most salespeople are full of advice. Through collaboration, you will hear ideas about how to improve your approach and techniques. In addition, I will tell you a secret: as much as you try, some prospects will not connect with you during your sales process. That is a real fact. In this case, ask one or several of your colleagues to help you. Trust me that collaborations can make you money. 2. You will enjoy your job more. Because you will spend a lot of time at work, the best thing that you can do is to build relationships with the coworkers surrounding you. You will likely see their faces, more often than you will see the faces of your own family. That's life. Being around the same people every day at work is how most people meet their spouses and their best friends. Building relationships at work will you to enjoy work, and you might as well enjoy your work. Because you can. 3. You will increase the likelihood of receiving a pay raise, promotion. Your superiors at work are looking at you and judging you by your results. Not only by your results, but they are also observing/considering your overall contribution to the team. By contributing to the team, you are a team member, and by helping all of your other teammates, you are creating value for yourself. Champions are masters of creating value. In conclusion, we all know that value equals money. Right? Key takeaway number 15, there is no I in SDR. Chapter 16. Giving sales presentations in groups of 3s. The key to any sales presentation is to customize it. The sales development representative must do research and ask questions on the phone. After this, comes the presentation. It is now time to present your products, services. This means you will have needed to complete a proper qualifying process to make sure that your presentation is successful. If you have not qualified your prospect properly, there is no reason to continue towards actually presenting your product/service. Typically, when you see a product presentation done on the telephone, on the sales floor, by a sales development representative, it appears to be a generalized product listing. There is no inclusion of any specific outstanding elements of the product because of the attempt to summarize many features, rather than describing a specific feature in depth. A successful presentation is letting the client know exactly how the product/service you provide can benefit their company, and solve the problems/needs of their company, and just that. To have a list of the benefits of your product or services is crucial. This list should be broken down into the most frequent, most popular, and then features offered. First, summarized for a beginner, then summarized for an intermediate, then finally summarized for an advanced group of potential users/buyers/prospects. Create the summarizing of all of your product/service features into groups of 3s. After grouping all of your best features into groups of 3s, with a presentation delivery performed with passion, and in groups of 3s. Why? Because statements made in multiplications of 3s appease the psyche. Fact, the brain becomes more receptive when receiving information in groups of 3s. The reasons why information received in series of 3s is so appealing to the psyche are too numerous to explain in this brief chapter, but just take my word for it. Smile. Here is a great example if you are selling yourself as a product. I use my natural talents of _and skills to have an impact in the _ industry. Depending on the products/services you provide, You may be required to present your product several different times to several different people, or several different groups of people. If this is the case, which means that you likely provide a business-to-business product/service, then you must have a well-prepared presentation. Key takeaway number 16, create a product benefits list. Then use items off the list in your SDR presentation, in groups of 3s. Chapter 17. Using silence in sales. As a sales development representative, do you talk too much? Are you willing to learn how to shut up? I wrote this chapter to help you deal with silence, fight, and overcome the fear of silence in your sales process. Tip number 1, prepare. The first thing that you have to do is to prepare your questions. Meaning, what questions are you going to ask? There should be a series of relationship building questions, and qualifying questions, but at some point you have to be prepared to ask a final powerful question, and then to shut the fuck up. Also, knowing beforehand, when should you use silence? It is such a key element of your call to let dead air exist at some points in sales conversations. However, know that silence will let the pressure build and increase the uncomfortable feeling inside the prospect. So tread lightly. Use short phrases, and then pause. Stop, and then listen to reactions. A beginner sales development representative will often have issues with control over their sales process, so if you have control issues, consider using silence as a tool. If you as a salesperson have a fear of silence, and do not prepare to deal with the world of silence in your calls, then you are naturally going to keep blabbering. In addition, you will continue blabbering during your sales process if you do not learn how to listen more than you speak. So prepare for your usage of silence ahead of schedule. Tip number 2, practice, practice, practice. The second thing that you have to do is you have to practice. Meaning, you have to practice what you have prepared. You have written down your opening questions, qualifying questions, and closing questions. You have written down your whole script and prepared properly. But now you have to practice, and practice, and practice. This is where things get uncomfortable for most salespeople. This is what separates the average SDR from the SDR champions. If you are prepared, and you practice, then you are going to be ready to deal with silence. You are going to be ready to talk with your prospects, and you are going to be able to get what you want. If you would only shut up. Key takeaway number 17, do not be afraid of silence. Chapter 18. Incline your sales performance. Have you been experiencing a flat line in your sales performance lately? Are you inside of a sales slump, as you are reading this chapter? Maybe you just want to be the best SDR on the sales team. I guarantee that by the time you reach the end of this short chapter, you will be able to finesse your way out of your sales slump. You will be able to increase your monthly income, and you will be able to incline your sales. Just use these 2 tips. Tip number 1, memorize common resistances. You go into the office for 8, 9, or maybe hours per day, and whether you like it or not, the job of a sales development representative is quite repetitive. You will hear the same resistances every day. They are varying from industry to industry, however, I guarantee that the resistances are very similar. You can and must prepare for these resistances. I have already recommended writing out the resistances that you hear, along with your rebuttals. I want you to do this in order to be a premeditated professional. Now it is time to go a little deeper. The best way to write your rebuttal will be first to empathize with your prospect's concerns. Afterwards, state a benefit about you, your product, or your company. Then finally, in the third sentence of your rebuttal, you will ask a theoretical question. In the third sentence of your rebuttal, this theoretical question should end with a micro-agreement, or open with a tie-down. The third sentence of your rebuttal should be applying either guilt or pressure, and painting a bad or good picture of the future simultaneously. Most importantly, memorize the awesome rebuttals you have created. You 100% must memorize rebuttals to common resistances. Tip number 2, refine your own sales scripts. There are 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 different parts to the sales process depending on whom you speak with, but each part of the sales development process should have its own script. The SDR has fewer scripts, but the only way to survive going into battle will be to understand the techniques of battle. Be prepared as possible for the battle. If you are working as a sales development representative, without using sales scripts, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. After you create your scripts, then you must constantly refine them. I challenge you to write and refine your own sales scripts, for one part of your sales process to begin with, and I guarantee you 100% that the result will be positive. Key takeaway number 18, always be growing. Chapter 19. The number one enemy of the SDR. I want to help all sales development representatives reading this book to make more money. The biggest complaints I hear amongst salespeople are about the lack of opportunities, or shitty leads, or a bad boss. They say these are the reasons that they are not excelling. However, I would disagree with all of the above reasons, for I find that the biggest enemy of the SDR is distraction. There are distractions that come towards you during the course of an average workday. It could be as simple as your cellular phone making a sound, picking up the cellular phone. And you know where that road can lead. Social media, games, texts, and emails can waste a lot of time, and be a distraction. During the course of your day, you need acutely focus on being at all times, in the process of creating a transactional exchange of your products/services. There are many different parts of the SDR process, for example, lead generation, competition research, sending emails, making introductory phone calls, follow-up calls, and various other follow-ups. My point is there is certainly something else you can do, instead of being distracted. How much time are you actually being effective? Are there not some leisure activities, thoughts, or conversations going on throughout your day that are not conducive or contributing to your overlying desires? Set a schedule for focus time and distraction time. When you are in a certain mind state of productivity, you should remain in this mindset as long as possible. Do not try to over-exaggerate the allotted times that you give yourself for focus, but rather maintain a realistic expectation of yourself by setting time frames that you can actually keep. Times for dedicated focus should range between 30 minutes to 1 hour. Your dedicated distraction times can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. Alternate between the two times, in accordance to what your desires are and how quickly you want to achieve them. It is just that simple. If you can spend just a few minutes of your time focused on a specific task with a specific goal in mind, your progress will be enormous. Your focus will cause the universe to listen, and then the universe will begin to push your desires towards you much faster. However, the key will be to focus on what you want. So do not get distracted. Stick to your allotted focus and distraction times at work, and remain on your schedule that you created. Have the discipline, and go for it. Key takeaway number 19, time is the most valuable asset, spend it wisely. Chapter 20. The most important thing. When it comes to being a sales development representative, there will be many important factors involved in your success. However, this chapter is going to be about what many would consider the most important thing, the biggest factor. Forget about your introduction or building chemistry. Put aside qualifying the prospect business, or finding pain points, or product presentations. The most important part of your sales cycle will be, and is, the follow-up. It does not matter if right after the introduction, the prospect decides they do not want to talk with you, and they hang up on you. Maybe they were just busy, and you need to call back. Perhaps you are in a shitty mood, because a secretary brushed you off. The whole process of being an SDR takes patience. Building relationships takes longer than you think, and people need time to speak with supervisors and staff before making decisions. So, plan to follow up. Do your follow-ups correctly. Why? Because statistically, any human being is going to say no at least 4 times before they say yes to something. Plan for this accordingly. As a sales development representative, you will need to follow up consistently. The scheduling of a follow-up meeting/phone call should sound something like this. Okay, so it sounds like you're not interested right now. Or it doesn't seem like it's a good fit for you at this current time. At the end of both of those openers you should say, is it okay if I call you in X equals amount of time, to check in and say, hello? Or is it okay if I call you in X, and see if it becomes more relevant? Keep in mind that the amount of time to follow up after a 100% not interested prospect can be anything from 1 month to 6 months, and every lead should be followed up with at least 10 times. This is good news for your funnel because the more leads in, the more clients out. It can never hurt or be a waste of time to perform follow-ups. To perform proper follow-ups, take notes of everything that your prospects just told you. Note the time you called, and consider attempting to call the prospect at varying hours. If your prospect asks you to call back at a certain day and hour, never miss the appointment. Create space in your calendar starting 10 minutes before your follow-ups in order to be efficient. A successful SDR is one that shows respect for prospects' time and their own time. Be efficient by following up like a champion. Following up is a sign that you and your company provide excellent service as well. Follow-ups, if done effectively, will keep you and your product/service inside the minds of your prospects in a positive way. Handling your follow-up efficiently and punctually will help you become a true SDR professional. Set up a system to make the most out of every opportunity. Wrap up every call with a scheduled follow-up. And stick to it. Key takeaway number 20, never quit, never stop following up. Never. The end.